So my goal in this section is to guide you on the relevant formats that you can use in drafting your manuscripts. There are about 4 formats that I would like to discuss with you. The first is the free formats. This is more playful, it is personal, it's like you are trying to collect and organize your thoughts. And usually it happens in the process of exploration when you are making inferences from your readings. It is good for those that are learning to write, and it is best for starters. The second format is the general style formats. This is what different universities use for their reports, dissertation, and thesis. It is clear, it's a little specific, and sometimes it's guided. You have an abstract, you have introduction, you have your literature review or background, you have the method or protocol section, you have your results, your discussion, your references, the appendix, and so on. That is like the general style. But one challenge with the general style is it's usually difficult to take a manuscript out of your thesis. It takes a lot of skill to do this. Sometimes you have like maybe 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 words in your thesis or dissertation, and you are submitting a paper or a manuscript to a particular journal who has stated that their format is between 1,500 words and 2,000 words. It takes a lot of skill for you to be able to put and organize this information to have a great manuscript. The third format is the traditional format. It is more research specific, discipline inclined and guided, and also innovation driven. The way a chemist will present his manuscript will be different from a molecular biologist or someone into management or someone who is a civil engineer or someone who is into biomedical engineering. So this is more specific to discipline and is guided also by innovation. When people make new discovery that can revolutionize time and re-engineer paradigms, the way they present it is different from when you just do the free format or normal format or the general style. So this is more traditional, and you need to understand differences and balance. Why the methods and protocol of presentation is different, there should be balance. People should understand how you conducted the experiments, why the study was conducted, how you generated the data, how you process the data, and the information that people should take home. And the last format is the journal-specific format. This is usually tailored to the scope of the journal, and some journal give you a template to follow. That template is specific to the information that should go into your manuscript. And the interesting thing about the journal-specific is it makes you more focused. You know what to write. You know the number of sections, the number of paragraphs, and how you should guide your information to that effect. It could be sometimes more productive for some people, because instead of just writing and keep writing without any specific format, it guides them better. And in that process, it makes them productive because they know they have finished this section of the template. The next is to work on this section. And also it guides them on the information to look out for online. It could be less stressful because now you are more focused, you are productive. There are specifications, and they also guide you on the do's and don'ts. They give you every details that you need to know. But there could be caveats. And the caveats here would be that sometimes it could limit your capacity to think and be creative. Usually when you write, you have to be creative. If you have followed my teachings on academic writing, you realize that creativity and originality is one of the things, or these are two key things that you have to deploy in the process of drafting your manuscript. So it could limit your capacity to think and affect your sense of creativity. Again, it could challenge quality because now you are more focused on what you want to write. It might be difficult for you to do deep or deeper search and also balance the information as possible. Sometimes people say it could save time, and for some other people, it could be time consuming because now your attention is just to use a guided template in the process of drafting your manuscript. These are the key formats that people use: the general format, the traditional format, the free format that is good for starters and those that are learning to write, and the journal-specific format, which is in line with the journal scope and the templates. For all these formats that I've just highlighted, there are things that are common to all of them, which when you look at the structure of any paper or your thesis or your report, these are key things you have to put in consideration when you start working on your manuscript. The first thing is the title. Your title is a mini abstract. It's the first impression because that is what people will see first. And it's going to determine if people would be interested in your manuscript. It accentuates study relevance. Your title should talk about how relevant your study is. It gives your article visibility because sometimes when people search for article rather, you realize that what leads them to your article is your title, how you frame your title, the intention of your title, and what exactly you have achieved, which is reflected by your title. Usually, your title gives you more citations. There are times that people tell you that they have not even found your article. They have not read it. Why? The title was not feasible enough. It's not something that is going to call people's attention in terms of going over to read your published article. Then also it gives you translational strength. When people that are innovators are interested in translating what others have published into product and services, what will guide them when they do a quick search is your title. This is very important. And you should realize and understand at the same time that the essence of writing papers or conducting experiments is for it to be translated into what can help people the most. It also attracts readers' attention. I've read articles before because of the title. If your title is boring, if the statements are disorganized, if the structure is flattened, people will not read your article. And you should understand again that when you publish an article and no one is reading it, it's like you have wasted your time because they will not be able to get in there to understand the essence of your study, and they can miss your depth. But again, your title can be misleading. You have to be careful when you frame your title. Ensure that what your title is saying is what you have in your manuscript. It can create confusion because what you have presented looks like a solution. But when they go into your manuscript, you have created more problem than what you intend to solve. It can dilute the strength of your findings, and that is why you have to be very careful. I've examined theses in the past that the title was light, but the data was stronger than the title. They would have used a better title. So you need to understand how you can match your title with the strength of your data. It can compromise novelty because usually when you phrase your title, you focus on what makes your research something that we should think about, on what gives your research or data relevance. So you won't want your title to compromise the novelty of your study. It can affect article traction, and that is also key. And let me tell you, your book can be judged by its cover. And like my friend used to say, when they look at your container, let it attract them to your content. And that's exactly what your title does. So there are three things that should guide you when you are trying to decide on your title. The first is clarity. The second is simplicity. And the third is creativity. These three things are very important when you look at your title or you intend to put your title together. And in the process of understanding the concept of clarity, simplicity, and creativity, you need to understand conciseness. Your title must be concise. You don't need too many informations in your title. It must be specific. Specific in terms of active. You need an active title. Say exactly what your data is saying. Don't beat about the bush and don't mislead people. It has to be descriptive. It is simple, it's concise, it's specific. But in terms of being specific, it has to describe a concept which you are promoting in your manuscript. It has to be meaningful. There are titles that when you read through, it doesn't make any sense to you. You ask yourself, what is this talking about? The moment you start doubting the strength of the data or the content of the manuscript by the title, it means that the authors have not done their homework very well. Understand that it has to be straightforward and be careful in the process of this. The choice of words you use for your title or in framing or phrasing your title is very important. You have to consider your audience. The people that will come across your article, majority of them will be uneducated. Majority of them might not have the kind of expertise that you are promoting and projecting through your manuscripts or your article. They are not in the areas of your research interest. They were not in the lab when you were conducting the experiments. You have to consider your audience. Will they understand it? And that is why simplicity is very important. Avoid too many technical terms. Avoid too many technical terms. I don't know if you have come across an article before, and when you look at the title, all the words in the title, they are technical, that you have to go online and search for the meaning or the meanings of these words. It will discourage people from going after your article in terms of reading and understanding. Avoid too many technical words. Try to simplify your title. Use words that people can easily relate with and relate to. No complex language. The language should be English. When you use some specific terms, ensure that you can translate them into English so that people can understand them. The tone of your title should not be controversial. When or while you are considering the choice of your words, you have to be careful of the tone. Sometimes when you come across some articles, you realize that the tone is controversial. The tone must not be offensive. You have to be careful. Even if what you are projecting in your manuscript is not what you are happy about, you have to be careful what your title says. It should be non-discriminatory. You are not fighting personal cause. What you are doing is you are helping research community. You have to be careful in terms of your tone. Even if the study is something that is against your personal will, your belief, your religion, You still have to be objective because you are a researcher and maintain the concept of writing in terms of understand the tone and use it appropriately that people will not have issues with what you have presented. Some great studies that have great data with sense of novelty have been compromised. Why? The titles sounded controversial, was offensive, and also discriminating. And the moment it's like that, people will not enjoy the strength of your data and the effort you have invested in generating that data. Your title shouldn't be more than 10 to 15 words. Don't write 5 lines of title. Your title shouldn't be 5 lines, 6 lines, 40 words. The moment they read the first line, they forget whatsoever you have there. Maintain 10 to 15 words. The center, and how do you decide on the wordings of your title if you are doing 10 to 15 words? The center message should be 2 to 3 words. The center message should be 2 to 3 words. So let me give you an example. If I'm trying to understand the influence of heavy metals on antimicrobial resistance, I could frame different titles, but my center message is heavy metals and antimicrobial resistance, or meta and antimicrobial resistance. So it shouldn't be more than 2 to 3 words. Then we have supporting particles. These supporting particles would include conjunctions, sometimes some adjectives like in, of, maybe most or major. And these are supporting particles. You shouldn't have more than 5. The lesser, the better. Then we have what we call balance fronts. So balance fronts, they are what you are using to now guide your center message. For example, my intention is to understand the influence or the effects of heavy metal on antibiotic resistance. So I could have something like investigating heavy metal. So investigating is the balance font. Or understanding meta-induced antimicrobial resistance in, or interaction. So understanding is the balance font. Investigating is the balance font. Maybe interaction of, so interaction is the balance font. So you need to understand what your balance fonts are, and it shouldn't be more than 2. Then justification of subject. What is justifying your subject is what exactly are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve? So when you look at this, the justification of your subject shouldn't be more than 2 words. So let me frame this title: Investigating Heavy Metal Antibiotic Interaction in Enterobacter cloacae Antimicrobial Resistance. That's a long title. But does it make sense? It makes sense. But I would rather say Investigating Heavy Metal Antibiotic Interaction in Enterobacter cloacae. That is simple and it is straightforward. I could say interaction of heavy metal and antibiotics in Enterobacter cloacae virulence and antimicrobial resistance. That makes sense. So when you look at this, it's an average of 10 to 15 words. So, and when you are drafting your title, you might not be able to get it at the goal. You might not be able to get it at the goal. You may have to draft and draft and draft it again to be sure it works. So be brief Your title should be short, simple title. Let me give you an example. The burden of hospital-acquired infection and antimicrobial resistance. That's a simple title. But let me give you a complex title. They have so many technical terms that it will be difficult for you to understand. Atroselective synthesis of azalie, kyra, dara ethers by copper catalyzed enantioselective alkyne azide cycloaddition. That is a title of an article. Just looking at the title is enough to discourage you. Focus on your study. Strength of your information. New things you are trying to introduce. The summary of your data and your study conclusions. When you are framing your title, focus on your study. Look at the strength of your data. What exactly is the most important thing about your data? The new things you are trying to introduce. What are the new things you are introducing? What is the summary of your data? One thing. What is one thing? One key and major thing about your data. Then your study conclusions. Let your title be a true reflection of the content. And the advice I usually give to people is write your title last and not first. So when you are designing your experiment or you are trying to write a review, you can have what we call working titles. That is the title you are working with. When you start conducting your experiment, you realize that the data you are generating might be off your intentions or your plans. You don't worry yourself, you keep on. It is the research and the data that should lead you. You are not the one leading the data. So when you finish conducting your experiments, you now tailor your title to the data you have generated. So usually, you frame or phrase your title last